A new poll indicates the Democratic race for governor is a two-man race. A Survey USA WOIO poll shows Richard Cordray and Dennis Kucinich tied in the primary. They stand at 21%. Joe Schiavone and Bill O'Neill are pretty far back, but nearly half of Ohio Democrats remain undecided with a little more than a month to go before the primary. Herb Asher, are you surprised with that undecided number this late in the game?
Not very surprised. Cordray's been out of the state for quite a while. Kucinich is not known well throughout the state. He's known in northeastern Ohio. You're giving the people in the poll, what, 4 choices? And it's not surprising that you might have half the Democrats saying we're not sure. And of course, that's oftentimes a safe response in a poll too, when you sort of say, well, I don't really know. And but I think what it says to the Cordray campaign is that the deal hasn't been closed yet with the voters. And I think it really means here that Cordray really has the necessity of getting out there more. He'll probably have the resources, the endorsements, the civic engagement, but you know, Kucinich is an interesting character, and will he stimulate turnout in the Democratic primary? Democrats are scared because Kucinich could either be sort of a Donald Trump putting together a really unusual coalition in a general election, or he could be an Ed Fitzgerald, who in fact drags the entire ticket down. And my guess is, when I talk to Republicans, if they had their druthers, they want to run against Dennis Kucinich.
Well, I bet, but a lot of Democrats want to run against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
This race is very tight, according to this poll. The Republican race is apparently not very tight from what we're hearing, but this race doesn't have the negative ads yet. Do we expect to see some, maybe?
You know, it's possible. I guess there are some issues that are arising among these candidates, between these candidates. I think Kucinich, I could see him going out on the gun issue, and particularly on Cordray, having supported assault weapons, overturning of assault weapons bans at the local level. He's been really pounding that issue, and I think that it is, given what's going on with the Parkland school shooting aftermath in the whole country arising over gun issues, that may hurt Cordray in a way that, you know, his predecessor, the last Democratic governor, Ted Strickland, was also A-rated by the NRA, and that was a good thing.
Yeah. Mike, the Republicans want to face Dennis Kucinich?
Oh, I think so. I think between Kucinich and Cordray, I don't think there's any question that's who they vote.
You want to go with the guy who's seen the UFO versus the guy that we're not sure if he's seen the UFO?
Yeah, that's exactly right. and I think Kucinich may get a little rough on this, because if we remember, I think we talked about this a month or so ago. He was attacking Cordray because of the position he had as an attorney and getting that the cities couldn't come up and ban guns and so forth. And of course, all he was doing was representing the state in his position as Attorney General. Yeah. And he won. But Kucinich, there's a case, but Kucinich twisted and makes him appear like he's some, you know, gun-toting maniac. So I think Kucinich looks at this as a plus in his behalf, and if he sees it that way, he'll be pushing it the rest of the time.
Joe, the knock on Cordray is he's not a fiery guy. Dennis Kucinich is. Cordray is more low-key. If you look at the breakdowns in that poll, only 10% of Northeast Ohio Democrats would have gone for Richard Cordray. Now, Kucinich is from there. He's got the home field advantage, but still, that's a kind of a low number in a very Democratic-rich area.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that the fact that it's Northeast Ohio and that's who you're talking to, you got to remember that. But, you know, we're forgetting there are a lot of Democrats in this state that don't live in a city. They're, you know, in smaller towns, they're out in the county. They look at some of these issues differently. Guns especially, you know, if you're in a small rural town, you probably favor guns. So Rich Cordray's stand on guns would not be an alienating factor for you.
And if Democratic liberal activists really want to win an election, my guess is that most of them would come to the same conclusion that Mike and I and others have come to around this table, that our stronger candidate is in fact Cordray.
And liberals might say, we did that with Hillary Clinton in 2016 and that didn't work out so well.
No, actually, they might say actually that if they had gone with Bernie, that might, you know, nobody can prove who would have won, but clearly this year, it's a critical year for the Democrats. They control nothing in Ohio. They actually have a good candidate for governor in Cordray. He's still the underdog against Mike DeWine, but I would assume that a lot of people who are thinking beyond, let's say, the single issue of guns or some other issue, Democrats would be saying, it's time for us to win. And it may be the case, if we have to win with a candidate that we don't agree with 98% of the time, we'll do that. We'll see. So I think Kucinich hits a ceiling at some point.
And if he wins, if Cordray should win that primary, DeWine isn't particularly fiery either. So in terms of a general election, it would be an interesting matchup. I'd like to see the John Husted-Betty Sutton debate, maybe more than the DeWine Cordray debate.
Interesting.